Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Okay, Baruch Hashem, we can get together and we can learn, Baruch Hashem. Everyone, welcome to Kodel Kol Shira in partnership with Breslov.org and Sanity Daily. So, this is Parshat Vayigash. Wow. It's such an emotional Parsha, right?
Oh my gosh.
The emotions going on here with Yehuda meeting up, and he doesn't know what to do, and he's in this turmoil, and how's he going to go back to Yaakov Avinu, and he doesn't know. Wow, unbelievable. And Yosef Atzadik, and he's standing, he's keeping his cool the whole time. Unbelievable, right? The whole story is this. It's a wonder, right? It's mamish a true wonder. So okay, so let's see, and then we have Yosef Atzadik sending over the famous line, Ani Yosef V'Avihu Chai. Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable, these words, right? And then Yosef Atzadik sends the wagons up to Yaakov Avinu, and he sends them in a certain way, in the same order that Klal Yisrael traveled with the Mishkan in the desert, with the order of the Shvatim and how it was done. Unbelievable things going on, unbelievable things in power. And then Yaakov Avinu gets down to Mitzrayim, and then there was a Roy Yitzayin, and all of those different things. So let's look a little bit inside what's going on over here. So first we start off Vayigash Elav Yehuda. Unbelievable idea. Vayigash Elav Yehuda. Yehuda is approaching. But you know, the Chazal tell us really Yehuda was approaching, and he wasn't really talking to Yosef. He was really talking to the Rabbeinu Shalom. I mean, the Chazal tell us that he wasn't really putting his hope in his discussion with Yosef Atzadik. He didn't know. But he was really defining and speaking to the Rabbeinu Shalom. So let's see what happened over here. Rav Nosson says, "Hein bechinas Klal Yisrael shenikrayim Yehuda, al shem Yehuda." Interesting. We're all called Yehudim, right? We're all Jews, right? We're Jews. Yehudim, al shem Yehuda. Do you remember how Yehuda got his name? Leah Meina said, "Hapam oide es Hashem, Hapam oide es Hashem." Leah Meinu, she was so thrilled, she was so happy, and she wanted to give thanks to the Rabbeinu Shalom. She said, "Apam oides Hashem." They wanted every time she'll call Yehuda, she would call her son Yehuda. She would be giving Haidah to Hashem. Yud K. Haidah. It was from Yud. He's giving Haidah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The name of the actual name is giving thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Unbelievable idea. And here we know we're called Yehudim based on Leah calling Yehuda for that reason. So what do we see from that? Really, our job is to constantly give thanks to the Rabbeinu Shalom. That's our job. And what greater pleasure do we give the Rabbeinu Shalom when we acknowledge the things that we have, anything that we have, especially our lives, every breath that we take, and we thank the Rabbeinu Shalom for it, everything we do. And I was thinking that, you know, when we make the bracha Asher Yotzar, right? It's one of the most remarkable brachas that we have, right? Asher Yotzar. Hashem does it in His most amazing way. To thank the Rabbeinu Shalom. So look what he says here. They were coming and approaching to Yosef Atzadik. Yehuda was coming to Yosef. Bechinas Atzadik Emes. Yosef Atzadik we know is the Tzadik Yisod Olam. Yosef Atzadik, the Torah says Yosef Atzadik. The Torah calls him a Tzadik. Why is he a Tzadik? Yosef Atzadik because he was able to be misgaber on one of the greatest nisyonis of all time, of one of the greatest tests of all time, with Ashes Paitifar. Unbelievable. And we see that even Eishes Paitifar, right? She was she really felt she was supposed to be with Yosef. B'horaya, when Yosef HaTzadik was made the viceroy over Mitzrayim, who does Paroi give Yosef as a wife? Osnas Bas Paitifar. Right? He gets the daughter. So she was off, but she wasn't totally wrong. Unbelievable. The daughter was actually Yosef HaTzadik's wife that Paroi gave to him. Unbelievable idea. Unbelievable, right? The fact that and we see right away the Torah tells us. Unbelievable. So here we go. So Yosef we know is Yosef HaTzadik, right? Hashem bechinas HaTzadik emes v'shovim b'tshuva al mechirasai shu bechinas pegam emunas chachamim. They were coming back to make tshuva because the Shvatim knew. The Shvatim were discussing amongst themselves. Well, we're having this problem here. This is going on as Mida Keneged Mida because we didn't have compassion on our brother, right? They were discussing that. They were discussing the idea. And how Reuven never even wanted to sell Yosef. Reuven wanted just to bring back. Reuben's idea was not to kill him. They wanted to kill Yosef, remember? The brothers wanted to kill him. Reuben came up with the idea, put him in the pit. And what was Reuben's idea? Reuben understood that Yosef was a tzaddik, and he understood that Hashem would protect him in the pit. As we know that the pit, it said over there, it was a bar ein mayim. What did it have in there? Right? There was no water in that pit, but there were snakes and scorpions in that pit. But Reuven knew that his brother was a tzaddik, and he understood that, and he knew that HaKadosh Baruch Hu would protect Yosef in the pit. His idea was to bring him back. His idea was to bring him back to his father. Not that they would. When he came back, he saw that they sold him. That was not his intention. And the brothers realized what a mistake that they made. So this is an idea of Vishavim b'tshuva al mechirasai. They're thinking about tshuva. Why did we do this? The pegam emunas chachamim. The greatest thing is, we say in Shema Nesri every day, we say, Ala tzadikim ve'ala chasidim, Hashem liftach la tzadikim. Right? Where it's incumbent upon us to believe in the tzadikim and not to have a pegam in our emun in the chachamim. Bechinas chalukas ha'etza. The idea was divided. He's going to explain what this means. You'll see in a moment. Ki mechiras Yosef hu bechinas chalukas malchus beis David, true bechinas chalukas ha'etza. Beis David was divided, and that's an idea of the idea being divided. He's going to work this thing out. Kamuva be'avtayra shel Vayigash shemadaberes mizeh k'may shekosav le'yechotzu l'shtei malchias oid. It won't be divided into two malchias anymore. Mitzvah Hashem, that's the way it's going to be. He parshas Vayigash medaberes mitikim mechiras Yosef shu bechinas pegam ha'etza, because the whole idea of the parsha of Vayigash is talking about and reviewing the idea of mechiras Yosef. Reviewing this idea of the pegama, the etza. They had their etza was paigam. Their whole idea is sheshavim b'tshuva u'mispaisim oisai u'mevakshin imenu sheyimchu lahem v'yachse v'yistakneim be'etza shleima v'tayva be'emes. In other words, they understood. The brothers understood. They understood that they made a big mistake. And they wanted Yosef HaTzadik to forgive them. Sheyimchu lahem v'yachse. They should come back. V'yisakneim be'etza shleima. They come back v'toiva b'emes. V'zel v'yoyim eila bi adoini yadaber no avdecha tova ba'oznei adoini. Perish Rashi. Sheyikonsu divorai be'oznecha. Let my words enter into your ears. Listen what Rashi is saying. In other words, Not that your word should just be spoken, but the word, what he says, let it enter into the ears. It shouldn't just bounce off the ears. Let these words enter in. Let these words enter in to your ears and into your heart. Well, good. Because we know that the real listening is in the heart. Is in the heart. But we know that any time it says beliba, it really means the mayach. Because really, what does the heart doesn't listen? The heart has the feelings. The real liba is in the mayach. Hainish yirachim aleinu v'yosim liba heitev heitev ma shenase imanu b'zeh olam v'yitin lanu eitze karoyu l'chalecha v'echad b'oipin shenucha l'hatzel atzmeinu kolecha v'ma shetzarech li'notza. Really, the tzadikim, people go to the tzadikim for advice, right? For an eitzah. People go to the tzadikim for an eitzah. And the tzadikim can give an eitzah because the tzadikim have ruach hakodesh. So the tzadikim know they can help us. V'yitin eitzah karoyu l'chol echad v'echad, to each and every one, b'oifin, in a manner shenucha lahatzel atzmeinu, that we're able to save ourselves. Kol echad mimashet tzarech linotzel, each and every person what he needs to be rescued from. Shaloi toiva tikvaseinu chalila, so that way our hope should not be lost chalila. Ki zeh klal shebederech shodem reitze leilech ma'lich in oiseh. We know Chazal teach us in the way a person wants to go. Ki bederech shodem reitze leilech, the way a person wants to go. They assist us. They allow us. Wow, this is a very, very important klal. So notice when we go ask to the tzaddik a question, you call your rabbi up. Rabbi, can I do this and this and this on Shabbos? Is this permitted to do? Right? So, or you can ask the rabbi, I'm certainly allowed to do this and this and this on Shabbos, right? Rabbi, I'm certainly allowed to do this and this. Rabbi, I'm certainly allowed to able to eat this and this. The way that you ask the question is the way the Rav is going to answer you. Unbelievable. Unbelievable siyata d'shmaya we have to have when we ask a shaila to get the real answer. My grandfather, Oliver Shalom, wow, he was mamish a special kid. I remember him telling me that years ago he was, he grew up in Brooklyn, and
mother's side or father's side?
From my mother's side. Yeah, and he grew up in Brooklyn, and he got a wedding invitation. He got a wedding invitation to a family member that they were not known to be very religious. They weren't. In other words, he knew they weren't very religious. He didn't know what to do, and if he can go to the chasna, if he can go to eat in the wedding hall that it was going to be in. So he called up his Rav, and he asked his Rav like this. He says, Rabbi, would you eat in this place? Rabbi, would you eat in this place? So the rabbi said to him, I won't eat in this place. So he said, well, thank you very much for answering. In other words, you need to know very, very much. You need to know very, very much. Very, very much. You need to know how to ask a question to the tzadikim. K'moshe shoylem es hatzadik kein hu meishiv. Umizeh boyin kol eitzos hamakulkolos. Shenidmeloi. Shemayes Hashem heim. Oy shatzadik yoitz loikach. Ubemes hakol mimenu ba'atzmai. The Yetzer Hara comes to a person and he talks it into the person that the answer that you got, even though it was a crooked answer, but this answer is an answer from Hashem. This is an answer from the Rabbeinu Shalom or from the Tzaddik that gave me this answer. But really the answer is from yourself. You're giving the answer, the way you're asking the question. This is the reason why I wanted to learn this Torah specifically. It's such an important klal. How to ask a question. How to ask the question. Ivelas Adam to Salef Darkai, Shedosha Besenuzal, Mikra, on this pasuk, that what? Alzeh Shvatim Shepogmu Beitza. The Shvatim, they were pagim, they made a mistake. Again, we're talking about the Shiftei Cup. But Chazal say this, and that's the only reason we were able to say a word. We're able to say something like this. Shepogmu Beitza. Al Kemisha writes a lochas alatzmei be'emes. Therefore, anyone that wants to take compassion on himself, Tzorech levakesh miyoid b'sachanunim rabim es Hashem yizbarach. He has to cry, and he has to beseech HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'es tzadikei emes sheyasimu libam heitiv al ma shenase imay ba'ofen sheyitnu la'etza amitis v'nitzchias sheyatzliach al yoda lenetzach be'emes. Unbelievable, unbelievable. You have to beg the Rabbeinu Shalom that when we ask the questions of the Tzadikim, they should hear it in the right way. It should be in a way that the answer will be something of truth. It'll be something of eternity. And I'll be able to be matzliach, I'll be able to be successful through it. To have success forever. Don't let your wrath out at me, at your servant. To nullify all kinds of anger and judgment. Because if a person does tshuva on his pagam emunas chachamim. And again, I believe this is the reason why Chazal instituted every day. We say that Ala Tzadikim Ala Chasidim 3 times a day in Hashmay Esrei. It doesn't matter if you're davening Nusach Ashkenaz, if you're davening Nusach Sfard, if you're davening Nusach Ari, or any Nusach. It all had the same words in there. Mishamu Miftach La Tzadikim. In other words, the whole idea we have to have emunah in the tzaddikim. This is what it's all about, Trevor. This is what it's all about. Having the emunah in the tzaddikim. This can't be stressed more today than any other time. We think today that sometimes, the tzaddikim, it's another guy, he's another one. All right, what? I know better than, what does he know more than me? How do I know? This is the whole idea. Through us having, and we come back with chayzeh b'tshuva on whatever we were paigim in emunah tzadikim. Kol minei sheim charanav ki nechlalim b'chinas kodesh kedoshim misham hamtokas shabaylam. Unbelievable, right? Hainu, she's battle kol mine charan af bedina. Say they tshuva pagam emunas chacham nisbatim kol mine dinim. You can nullify all kinds of judgments. Sheim charan af, which is the anger. Ki nechlalim bechinas kodesh kedoshim, because you come back to kodesh kedoshim. What's kodesh kedoshim? Whenever we make tshuva, when a yid makes tshuva. So what is he doing? He's coming back to the Rabbeinu Shalom. A yid is coming back to the Rabbeinu Shalom. A yid is stuck in this world. And in the world we have the person can be stuck in his makom, stuck in his place. And then when we're stuck in our place, sometimes the place is like quicksand. It draws us in. It pulls the person in. But if we can be l'malam in our makom, if we can be l'malam in our makom, we learned this chevra when we learned Hilchos Tzitzis, where a person can look at his tzitzis, and a person can see the tcheles, and he sees the tcheles. It's the first beged we put on in the morning is our tzitzis, right? It's the first beged we put on. We put on the tzitzis. If I see my tzitzis, I can remember all the mitzvahs of Hashem. And remember what we learned when we do that. The beged has 4 corners to it, symbolizing the 4 legs of the Kisei HaKavod. The 4 legs of the Kisei HaKavod. This is based on lesson, this is what we're learning here. It's all based on lesson 1 in Likutei Maran Tinyana, where the Rebbe says we have to have control of the malachim. How do we have control of the malachim? Really, the malach that we have to have control is the Yetzer Hara inside of us. Right? The Yetzer Hara inside of us tells us, the tzadikim, who are they? Come on, I'm a big tzaddik myself. That's what the Yetzer Hara will say. Right? But when we have it, when we can come up and we can mamish see and we can look at those tzitzis and we remember that the 4 corners of the 4 legs of the Kisei HaKavod is Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and David HaMelech, David Malka Mashiach, which we learned is connected to the 3 colors in the eye. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov is the 3 colors in the eye. And David HaMelech is the Bas Ayin. David HaMelech is the Bas Ayin, the pupil of the eye. And when we realize these things, that we can grab onto the Kisei HaKavod, Kodesh Kedoshim. This is where we can do. And when you can do that, you have all the sweetening of all judgment in the world. Because then the Rebbeinu Shalom we know is Mekaymai Shel Olam, the Eina Olam Mekaymai, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Mekaymai Shel Olam. Hashem is the world. He's everything of the world. And not that the world, Chas v'Sholem, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's place. He is the world. And when we can have emunah in tzadikim, and we can see the tzitzis, and we can connect it, we can mamish connected in Kisei HaKavod. You'll ask me, what do I have to do with the Kisei HaKavod? You know what you have to do? Every single yid has a pintel in the neshama. Every single yid has he has a nefesh habahamis, nefesh alikus. We all have a neshama in us. The nefesh alikus, we have that inside of us. Where does the neshama come from? Chazal tell us it comes from mitachas lakisei hakavod. It comes from underneath the kisei hakavod. So every single yidla, every single Jew, no matter who he is, no matter where he fell into, it doesn't matter, can have those tzitzis, look at those tzitzis, and see the tcheles, and remind himself, what's my tachlis in this world? What am I doing in this world? What's this world all about? What am I doing here? Am I accomplishing what I'm supposed to accomplish? But how do you do that? You have to first have emunah and tzadikim. Emunah chachamis, nispaten kol minei dinim. Shem charanav, ki nechlolim b'kodesh kadosh v'sham kamal togas v'adam. V'chol ma shenimta kadin b'yoyser. And the more you can get closer to the Rebbeinu Shalom through the tzadikim, and you mamtik the din, b'yoyser nishlama ha'etza b'yoyser ad shezoiche b'chol pam la'etza shlema ha'nimsheches me'tzadik ha'emes sheyuchel lamed al yoda kineged kol mine eitzes mekulkolos me'abal dover. Today in the world we have more eitzes, more advice from the Baal Dover, from the Sitra Achim, more than anything else. Look around what's going on in the world. Look around. Look around what's going on and all the ideas that the government is trying to shtup on everybody. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But we need to hold strong and have emunah in the tzadikim. We need to have emunah in the tzadikim. We have to have emunah in the Rebbeinu Shalom. We said over many times from the Rebbe of Melech Milezhensk, the Holy Rebbe, the Rebbe of Melech, he said many times, he would say this at Shalosh Shudas, remember, at the end of time, it's going to be like this, he said, the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to test Klal Yisrael, And what's it going to be? He said like this, you know, we have like he gave the example, there's a rope that goes from Shemayim down to this world. And that's the Chevel of Emunah. That rope is the Chevel of Emunah. It's the rope of Emunah. And every Yidel that holds on to the rope with his Emunah in the Rabbeinu Shalom. And then the Rabbeinu Shalom is going to want to test and see who is the true Mammon. So the Rabbeinu Shalom is going to start to give the rope on top a little shake. And you know the way it works, when the rope is on top, it's a very long rope, and you give the top a little shake. On the bottom, you get a lot of reverberations, right? It starts to shake a lot on the bottom, right? And then the Rebbe said that those that don't have such emunah, that don't have such a strong emunah, what are they going to do? They'll fall off. Those guys will fall off. And there'll be a lot left. And then the Rebbe is going to give it a little harder shake. A little harder shake. And he's going to see what's going to happen. What's going to happen now with you, Kinderlich? What's going to happen with the Kinderlich now? What's going to happen? And then those are going to fall off again. Because they see the craziness in the world. That shake of the rope is the craziness in the world. The craziness in the world. You see the things that are going on. And that's all to hold on to our emunah. That's why it's all there. It's all what the Rebbe was saying. It's all the craziness that's going to be. That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu shaking his rope. He's shaking that rope. By HaKadosh Baruch Hu shaking the rope, those will fall off. And we see Rahman al-Itzlan, Yidden are falling away. Yidden are falling away, Rahman al-Itzlan. Hashem should help us and spare us and bring us all back. But how do we do that? We have to have emunah in the tzadikim. Via emunah in tzadikim, we can have emunah in the Rabbeinu Shalom. You could stand up against all the crooked advice. That the Baldava he surrounds the heart with. Every single day and every time. He said, Yehuda says, Ki kamaycha kipari, because you like pari. What does that mean? Pari, zeh bechinas bittel v'kilkel eitza kedaisha. Pari is the whole idea, is pera. Pari is pera. Mitzrayim is meitzar, constriction. The whole idea of Mitzrayim and Pari is to take us away from the Rabbeinu Shalom. Pera. Zebechin is bittul kilkel. Bittul kilkel ha'etza ha'kedosha. To be mevatel the etza ha'kedosha. Bebechinas v'tifra'u kol atzmaisi. What does that mean? Shayadei haya kol golus Mitzrayim shekoilu kol agolius. This is the idea of Pari Pera. Shayadei haya kol golus, all exile. All exile is in B'Shem Mitzrayim. Oymir eitzel ha'oyref. It's next to the neck. V'roitzel ha'akev ha'moichin. It wants to pull away the mind. It wants to prevent the mind. Shalayedu lamata. V'yisavu mehem eitzes toivos. That it shouldn't have good advice. Lahakir habayra yizbanach al yodam. To recognize the Rabbeinu Shalom. And this is what the world is against today. This is what they're all against. This is what they're against. Shezeu ikka sayd galus Mitzrayim. This is the ikka galus and the secret of what galus Mitzrayim was altogether. This is what it really is. What was the whole idea of Mitzrayim? Meitzah yam. To make a constriction, to make everyone feel they're in a confinement. That there's no aid, there's no way out. That was the whole idea of Mitzrayim. That was the whole idea. But what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes out Klal Yisrael from Mitzrayim. He takes us out. What was the beautiful thing about that? We know that not even one slave was ever able to escape out of Mitzrayim. And here HaKadosh Baruch Hu in broad daylight, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes out Klal Yisrael. He takes out Klal Yisrael from Mitzrayim. From the place that no one was able to get out of. They welcomed us out. Get out. Get out. We didn't have to escape. They escorted us out. They wanted us out. Unbelievable what the Rebbeinu Shalom did for us. Unbelievable. But the whole idea of Mitzrayim was Meitzar Yam, constriction. I'm stuck here. And any Yid, they could be living in America, they could be living in Eretz Yisrael, they could be living in Canada, anywhere in the world. They can be a product of Makkah. They could mamish feel that the place is Gairim, because we know the Makkah is Gairim. The Makkah is Gairim, the Makkah causes. There's a famous story from the Baal Shem HaKadosh. I like to tell this story a lot because this story means so much and it's so true. The story goes like this. He said one time the Baal Shem HaKadosh had his illustrious students. And he told his illustrious students one night, he said, we're going to go on a trip. We're going on a trip. And the Baal Shem HaKadosh had a driver. His driver was a Ukrainian guy, a big Balvan, a big, okay. And he told the driver to get the wagon ready. And the driver got the wagon ready, of course. And they got into the wagon and they started to ride. And they were riding for hours and hours and hours. And then we know what happened was the wagon stopped. And the Baal Shem HaKadosh asked the driver, tell us what happened. Tell us what happened. So Alexei didn't want to say. He didn't want to say. The Baal Shem HaKadosh said to him, no, it's okay. You could tell us. Tell us what you were thinking. Tell us what happened. He didn't want to say. He didn't want to say. He was embarrassed. The Baal Shem asked him again. He said to him, please, I won't be upset at you. No one will be upset at you. Tell us the truth, what you were thinking. So he did. He said like this. He said, we were riding for a long time in the forest. It's pitch dark. He had like a candle. They had some kind of a lantern or something that he had. But chutz me that, with that, there was nothing, there was no light. It was pitch black in the forest. And Alexei was thinking like this. He said, the rabbis, they had nice fur on their coats. It was the winter time. And they had a silver cane, and they had whatever money they had. So Alexei was thinking, you know what? I'm a big, strong guy, and I have a couple of sticks here in the front of the wagon with me, that I use sometimes for the horse. I could take these sticks, I can knock out these rabbis, I can kill them, I could take their money, and no one will ever know. No one will know. So the Baal Shem Tov thanked him. Wow, he thanked him for that? He did. I'll tell you why. He thanked him because he said, let me teach you something. And he told his students this. He said that, the Makkah is Gairim. The Makkah, the place, causes what a person happens. Whenever we do a mitzvah, we create malachim, right? We create angels. When we do a mitzvah, we create angels. Like we learned from the Kavah Yasha last week, right? We learned the beautiful idea that all the malachim come and they want to answer amen to the bracha, right? There are different groups of malachim, right? For each mitzvah that we do, there are different groups. And anytime you're going to make a bracha, that the group of malachim come together and they want to answer amen to that bracha. They're waiting for you to say that, and they want to welcome the new malach that's going to join that group. Unbelievable idea. But we also know that when a Jew, chas v'sholom, or anyone does an aveira, so they create that malach ra, they create that wicked angel, and that wicked angel is there in that place. And that wicked angel is there in that place, wherever that sin took place. And the Baal Shem Tov was Megala. He revealed that in that very place where they were now, where they were in the middle of the forest, he said that many years ago, there was a murder that took place over here. There was a murder that took place over here. Because a murder took place over here, because of that murder that took place over here, that caused you to have these machshavos. That's what caused you to have these thoughts. It's not your fault. It's not the person's fault. It's the makom. So the Baal Shem Tov said, and he taught us, that any time a Jew comes to a place and they have cuckoo ideas in their head, what should they do? Leave. Leave that place. Go to another place. Could be that that place was Geirim, those thoughts. And if it's only because you were in that place at that time. But if you'll be Mashana the Makom, you'll go to another place, so then the Machshavas will go away. Fascinating concept. Fascinating concept. We're learning over here by Yehuda that there was an Eitzah that was divided. There was an Eitzah that was divided. In the Shvatim, perhaps we can understand the Eitzah that was divided, that half wanted to kill Yosef HaTzadik. The other ones, like Yehuda, wanted to save him and put him in the pit and bring him back. They weren't all in agreement. They weren't all in agreement. But we understand that Yehuda came and Yehuda wanted to make Vayigash-Believing Yehuda. Yehuda was talking to the Rabbeinu Shalom. He was telling the Rabbeinu Shalom, I realized we made a mistake. I'm realizing we made a mistake with Mechiras Yosef when we sold our brother. I realized we made a big mistake here. That's what he was saying. That's what he was really saying. And we know we made a mistake. And we want to make tshuva on that. And we say when a person makes tshuva on his pegam in the tzadikim, he can cause a great hamtaka. He can cause a great sweetening of judgment. He can cause a great sweetening just believing in the tzadikim. And because then when the tzaddik gives you an idea, or the tzaddik tells us to do this or that, we do it because we believe in the words of the tzaddikim. And not that we try to run away from what the tzaddikim is saying, because the tzaddikim know, with their connection to the Rabbi Shem. When we learned the idea again, the idea of tzitzis, how special tzitzis is. Every day we're involved in the mitzvah of tzitzis. Can we think about it? We know that tzitzis is the first thing, the first mitzvah that we give a little child to do. Right? The child has his upsharing, right? They cut the hair of a child when he's 3 years old. What's the first thing they put on the child? Tzitzis. Tzitzis. Some people tell you because it's cute. But the tzaddikim tell us really, you know why you put on the tzitzis? Because the child needs to be connected to the tchelis. To the tchelis. It doesn't matter if you have the tchelis on your tzitzis or not. The Torah tells us that the tzitzis is called a tchelis. Psil tchelis and the tzitzis. Risa ma'isei uschartem is called mitzvahs Hashem. Vasisa ma'isem. V'lo yisasuru acharei levavchem. V'acharei einechem. I know I won't go after my heart's desire, after my eyes. And I know that the tzitzis can help me to remember all the mitzvahs. The tzitzis can help me to remember like it says. Right? I can remember all the tzitzis. Is called mitzvahs Hashem. I see them, I can remember all of the mitzvahs Hashem. Remember what we learned about that? How can you remember all of the mitzvahs when you're looking at tzitzis? Do you see all the mitzvahs in the tzitzis? Can you really see that? So what's the Torah telling us? So we learned from Rav Nosson the idea that really tzitzis, we have 32 strings, right? There are eight strings on each corner. Times 4. 8 times 4 is 32, right? I'm not a big mathematician, but that much math I know. 32. 32 is the gematria of Lev. Lev, heart, Lev. Now, how are you going to remember all of the mitzvahs of Hashem with the heart? Well, Marty, you're a Bal Kaira, right? So, Marty, you could tell us that the last letter in the Torah is what?
Yisrael.
Yisrael. So what's the last letter in the Torah? A Lamed. Right? It's a Lamed.
Bereshit starts with the base.
And Bereshit starts exactly. So So when you're saying the Kriya Shema, what do we take all the tzitzis? We take all the 4 tzitzis. So we have 32. We're looking at 32 strings. Leiv. And I remember within the last letter and the first letter of Torah, it was all the whole Torah, all of the mitzvahs. The 613 mitzvahs are found there. So the tzitzis is there to jog my memory. Fascinating, right? Fascinating concept. We're saying this all the time. But I bet you can ask anybody you want. How are you going to remember? Well, maybe it's a hint to something. I don't know. Right? They'll give you no one will know. I guarantee you can ask all your Rabbanim. You ask them this idea. How am I going to remember all of the mitzvahs? And they won't know this concept. Those that didn't learn Likutei Halachos, didn't learn that, they won't give you an answer. They can't give you an answer like that. Not Chas v'Shalom, they're not Talmidei Chachamim. Chas v'Shalom, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. But to understand the beauty in the mitzvah, the way we learned this all, Chevra. We learned this together. Years and years ago, we may have learned it 10 years ago, but Baruch Hashem, we learned this. We learned this concept, right? And the whole idea is having the emunah in the tzadikim. And that's really, really, really what we have to understand. It's emunah in the tzadikim, and to believe in the tzadikim, and not to ever discount and discharge anything that tzadikim tell us. Because the tzadikim have no ulterior motive. All they want is that we serve the Rabbeinu Shalom, and they want that we serve the Rabbeinu Shalom in the best way possible. That's all they want. They don't want anything else. They don't want anything else. And that's what Yosef HaTzadik wanted. Yosef HaTzadik didn't want the covet. He didn't need covet. He was letting his brothers know that, listen, I'm sorry, but I'm the tzaddik. I'm the tzaddik. What am I supposed to do? And they were, why do you have to hate me for that? And they realized that. And the brothers realized that. Okay, so Baruch Hashem, we learned the beautiful concept over here of really the meaning behind Yehuda, Vayigash-Believing Yehuda. He was really talking to the Rabbeinu Shalom. It was really all about the idea to make tshuva on the mechira of Yosef, the half of an eitzah, the half of Malchus Beis, that to bring it all back together. And how do you bring it back together? By having belief in the tzadikim, by making tshuva. Tshuva can bring you to the Kodesh Kedoshim. Tshuva can mamish bring you to the Kodesh Kedoshim. Why can the tshuva bring you to the Kodesh? Because we know the Shechina Kedosha was resting in the Kodesh HaKedoshim. And when a person does tshuva, he goes back and he comes back part of the Shechina. He comes back to be part of the Shechina. So he's part of the Shechina. And the Rebbe Shem chose to put the Shechina where? In the Beis HaMikdash, in the Mishkan. Why? Why did Hashem put the Shechina and in the Mishkan, in the Beis HaMikdash? We know why. Chazal tell us, because in the Kalim that are in the Mishkan, the Kalim that were in the Beis HaMikdash, especially in the first Beis HaMikdash, right? But it had the Menorah, it had the Aron, it had all of the things in there, right? That was a resemblance to Gan Eden. That's a resemblance to Gan Eden. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to have a resemblance to Gan Eden in this world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to have a Dira Tachtonim. That's what Hashem wanted. That's what He desired. And via us understanding that we can come back to the Shechina. And if we can come back to the Shechina, we can come back to the Rabbeinu Shalom. And the Shechina we know is close, is Gan Eden. Gan Eden we know is very close to the Kisei HaKavod. And a Jew can be, and we know that tshuva is megas at Kisei HaKavod. Chazal teaches that tshuva is megas at Kisei HaKavod. What does that mean? That tshuva can reach all the way to the Kisei HaKavod. So if a person looks at his tzitzis, they're trying to cause me all kind of impurity. The Yetzer is trying to. But if I look at my tzitzis, the tchelis, and I remember my tachlis oh boy, I can be mamish come back to the Rebbe. And this is what it's all about. Does anyone have any comments, any questions? I said a lot of things here. Does anyone want to add anything?
We also have the remez and the tzitzis. They say the gematria of tzitzis, tzadikut tov, is 600.
Yes.
And then you take the
13 knots.
For the 5 knots, so that's 13. So 613 also.
Yeah. Emes. That's what, no, but no, I understand. But here it's a re'isa ma'isai.
Yeah.
When you see them, you're supposed to remember. Yeah, what you're saying is emes lamita, of course. But the chiddush here is a re'isa ma'isai. How you can remember the mitzvahs when you're looking at the tzitzis. That was the whole idea. All right, so listen, I want to thank everyone for joining. And the Mitzvah Hashem, we'll meet again next week on our class. Hopefully Mashiach Tzidkenu will come, and then we'll all be in Eretz Yisrael together. I hope. Be'ez Hashem. Achak Eloi b'chol yom sheyavai. Any moment. This is what it's all about. So everyone, kol tov. I hope Ernie has a refuah shalema, and I want to, and Rabbi Yaakov will come back. And thank you everyone for joining. Kol tov.